I certainly didn't know Tim Russert anywhere to the degree that you knew Tim Russert, Mike Barnicle, but I somehow don't think Tim would be following his @mentions on Twitter by the day. Yeah.
Well, it's a funny thing, and it's a very brief period of time since all Twitter and everything like that has exploded. But TV, as we know it, still remains, in my mind, an MRI machine to people out there at home watching TV.
Right.
And you said people feel as if they knew your dad. Tim. That's because they did know him in a sense, because the MRI machine that is TV gave them an accurate portrayal of a guy who wasn't talking down to anyone.
Right.
A guy who was there to get a job done for people watching TV, for presenting the news with very little spin or twist, and he was going to ask what you wanted to find out.
One of the lessons that my grandfather taught him, and hopefully it's been passed down to me, is that you're always loved, but you're never entitled. The world doesn't owe you a favor. And I think oftentimes you see in media is that people lose sight of who they're really there for, which is, in theory, you're supposed to be there on behalf of the American people. And my father, really through his Catholic faith, with Mike, you can relate to growing up with the nuns and growing up with the Jesuit education.
Sister Lucille.
Sister Lucille, the great Sister Lucille, had a wonderful reverence for the idea of conviction, that this was sort of his conviction, this idea that he had to be a questioner on behalf of the American people, that he had to go seek out the truth, which he learned in law school as well, is always get to the truth. But he really carried that. He believed it sincerely. It wasn't just something that he said to look like a good journalist. And that's sort of, remember how he passed away. He passed away tracking for Meet the Press. As Reverend Jesse Jackson once said, he died with his work shoes on. And I think that was really poignant for him.
At Tim's wake at the St. Albans School in Washington, President Bush had just returned from an overseas trip and came to the wake in the school library. The president could not have been better that day with the family. We were all there. But Sister Lucille, you just reminded me, was first in line. The President of the United States came into the library, and he walked over to Sister Lucille, and he said, "You must be Sister Lucille." And she said, "Yes, Mr. President." He said, "What grade did you teach Tim? Because you helped Tim become the great man that he became." And Sister Lucille said to the President, "Mr. President, I taught 7th grade." And President Bush said, "Ooh, that's a hard one."